Well, hello, I'm Adrian Reed, and this is the first sort of prototype LinkedIn live broadcast talking about business analysis, business change, general interesting topics to the business analysis, business change communities. And I'm really pleased to say that I'm joined by Christina Lovelock. Now, I'm sure many people watching will know Tina as a BA leader, a speaker, and indeed an author. Author of articles on publications such as BA Times, but also wrote the fantastic book Delivering Business Analysis, the BA Services Handbook, which is co-authored with Debbie Paul. Well worth getting your hands on if you haven't seen a copy already. And today we are going to talk about a topic which is probably more relevant now than ever, which is around well-being and empathy. So why BAs need to consider the human side now more than ever. And Tina, you sent me through a really interesting video which had a comparison between sympathy and empathy. Mm-hmm. I'm really intrigued as to what led you to find that video and what you took from it. Because I took a huge amount from it. It was only like 5 minets long, but it was, or 3 minutes long, but it was great.
It is. Well, thanks, Adrian. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. I think that there's a lot of interesting points to take from that video. One of the things that really stuck out to me was the concept of an empathetic response never starts with the phrase "at least." And I think we often feel that we need to provide a bright side or a silver lining for people when they've told us a problem, and we want to play back to them, oh, well, at least this isn't happening, or at least you're not in this situation. But that doesn't allow people to feel heard. And that really stuck with me because I know that's something I've done to a lot of people, whether it's in a business context or a personal context. And I'm really interested in the idea of empathy because I don't think I am naturally a very empathetic person. But I realise it's a skill that you can learn just like any other skill. And so I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say, well, I just don't really know how other people are feeling. I'm not very empathetic, when it's something that we really need right now and something we need to invest in.
That's I mean, knowing you, I'm a very empathetic person, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, what strikes me as you're talking there is that there's perhaps two different elements to this. There's the empathetic feeling, so understanding that somebody is feeling something or putting yourselves in their shoes, but then there's the response to that. And it's quite difficult to know, or I find it quite difficult to know how to respond to someone who's going through a tough time. And I suppose one of the reasons, when I was watching it on a personal level, but also thinking about as BAs, we design services, processes, or whatever. And I always put my hand up and say I've been guilty of being in process workshops where there's been quite an internal focus. Like actually, there's a broader empathy piece for customers and users and stakeholders.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all guilty of making assumptions and assuming that we know what other people want or other people are feeling. I think the good thing for us as BAs is that we are naturally quite a curious bunch. So in terms of the response when someone tells you something that you weren't necessarily expecting or challenges some of the assumptions that you had, we don't have to come up with a clever answer. We can just be curious. We can ask more about it and say, well, that sounds really interesting, or that sounds really difficult. Do you want to tell me a bit more about that? And they might not want to tell you anymore, but that kind of response, rather than a very kind of defensive answer, which might naturally spring to our minds, I think actually cultivates the relationship a lot more.
Yeah, decultivating that stakeholder engagement. Of course, as BAs, we talk about stakeholder engagement a lot. And I know there are lots of good models out there, but actually, what I'm coming to realise as you're speaking there is that curiosity, that childlike curiosity about not just because we often talk about curiosity in terms of like the problem situation, but actually, organisations are just collections of people and stuff, and in most cases, the stuff won't run the business; it's the people. So actually, we're in an inherently people profession, I would say.
We are, and we're given the role of going out there and listening to people. That's what we are asked to do. And I think BAs can forget that that's their main purpose. Sometimes we can become a bit inward looking. We can start to focus very much on our development team. We can focus on our toolkit and deploying that in the way that we want to use it. And we forget that our main purpose is asking good questions and listening and providing a way to collate all of that information. And so curiosity is absolutely key, in my opinion.
Mm. What else? I mean, well-being. I mean, one thing that I know that this is a topic that's quite central to your focus. And I know a few years ago you did a presentation, I think at the BA Conference Europe, entitled the BA Wellbeing Project or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You tell us a bit about what that involved.
So it was the BA Happiness Project, actually.
I'm nearly right.
Nervous about that topic, and I didn't know how it was going to be received at all. And I thought I might be talking to an empty room, but it was really well received. And what I really wanted to do there is highlight some of the tools and techniques that we've got as BAs that we can use on our own lives to help understand ourselves a bit better and understand our sources of happiness and what makes us unhappy. So, for example, the force field analysis is a really interesting one for thinking, okay, what's contributing to my happiness right now, and what's working against that? What is causing me to be unhappy? And I think breaking something down and also visualizing something really helps us think through our problems. And I think in the current situation where we're on lockdown 3.0, or however many times we've been locked down, we do need to think about all the tools that we've got available, including our professional toolkit, to think, how are we going to get through this and what have we got that can help us? And the idea of the Happiness Project was also to empathise a little bit with our stakeholders, to understand how BAs react to change. And we kind of swan around the place saying we're change agents and we've got a really great attitude to change. We've got a good attitude to change when we're changing someone else. We don't have a good attitude to change when somebody is trying to change us. And in that situation, we revert to all the standard stakeholder stereotypes of being resistant to change. So using some of our tools to help understand our own attitudes and beliefs was what I wanted to get out of that, really.
Yeah, interesting observation. Actually, we are change professionals, but rarely do we apply those techniques to ourselves. And actually, that's a really interesting observation. I mean, from a lockdown perspective, definitely, because I know, I don't think there will be a single person watching this or a single person anywhere that hasn't had ups and downs with the lockdown. I can't believe there's anyone. And you're right, actually, looking into our toolkit and saying, well, actually, all the tools we have are about managing change. Doesn't really matter if that's organizational change or personal change. And then actually sort of springboarding from that, you can start to say, well, actually, you can use it for career planning. There's a lot of BA tools you can use because fundamentally, I suppose what the toolkit's about is taking current state, working out what the future desired state is and working out the path between them. So that's interesting. So did you manage to get to a situation where your team were more adaptable to the kind of change that was thrown at them?
I think that we're able to use the fact that we are change professionals and reflect on that and think about our toolkit when an unexpected change is thrown our way. So, for example, organisational restructures, we're able to talk about that, even when it affects us in a slightly more abstract way, and talk about, well, why are we feeling that way? And we've used techniques like the 6 thinking hats, for example, to try on different ways of looking at a problem that's affecting us as a team, which is quite interesting and an interesting way to use our toolkit on our own challenges and problems.
Yeah. I think the 6 thinking hats is a great technique anyway. And I know that the sort of the classic way of using it, if you read De Bono's original work, was about having multiple people and doing it in like parallel thinking, I think he called it. But I even find it sometimes useful individually. You can actually, you can say, okay, well, am I being a bit black hat? Do I need to put a bit of yellow hat on this? Because actually, not I don't know if most BAs are like me, but I find that sometimes I tend to think about everything that could possibly go wrong about something. In fact, wasn't that one of your bad BA behaviours, like the critic or something?
Yeah, absolutely. We do tend to be a bit pessimistic, a little rain cloud following around our heads when we're walking around. The black hat one is really interesting because it also allows us to confront stakeholders with the attitude that they are typically bringing, or whether we are that person or whether it's somebody that's working with us. It allows us to say, look, we've all got a natural perspective and a natural way of looking at things, but there are multiple perspectives, and let's try and open it up a little bit. And I once had a bit of a tricky stakeholder who was a natural black hat, and they said that they felt that other people had an expectation on them to bring that, not doom and gloom exactly, but to bring in those kind of warnings and flag issues, and that was the role that they played for the group. And they actually found it quite liberating to be able to try on some of those different hats with the 6 thinking hats and not have to play the role that they usually play, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. When you've done, this is always an interesting question. Do you do it with physical? I mean, I'm guessing you probably don't do it with physical hats. Do you use a prop at the time you're doing it?
The most recent time I used it was when we were still face to face with my team, and we had different coloured Sharpies and different flip charts in different areas of the board, so the colour matched the colour of the hat. I've never used it with physical hats. I think that would be a step too far for me.
I think it'll be for me. I've got somewhere in this room, I've got a whole set. I was doing some sessions and I laminated a description of what that, because I like stationery, so unsurprisingly I have a laminator and I laminate things. But I find it useful to like put the legend in the middle of the thing, and then you can have like a different coloured card or whatever on top. So Patrick and Mark, I see you're viewing. Good to see you. Good to see you both. So I mean, wrapping up really, if you were thinking about as BAs supporting each other, and that could be people in our team or people in the wider community, and supporting our colleagues, what sorts of things should we be doing?
Well, another message that I took from the video that we both watched, and I think that you're going to be able to post the link to it afterwards, was the idea of showing a little bit of vulnerability, showing how you're feeling. And I certainly had weeks where I've said to my team, I'm just not feeling it this week, and just allowing them to see that we all have ups and downs. So sometimes showing a little bit of yourself to invite that trust and allow other people to really share how they're feeling with you is really important. And I think as BAs, we are natural facilitators. And I think we've already got a little bit of permission to ask questions around that area, to be operating more in the space of interpersonal skills, what I refer to as core skills, than some of the other roles that we work with. So I think there's already a little bit of an in for us to be that person who asks those types of questions.
Yeah. So and again, that comes back to that sort of curiosity, doesn't it? So sort of asking those sorts of questions, and I do think, I mean, it is about asking questions, looking out for each other, looking for those signals that someone might be struggling, and what I mean, do you have any tips if we do notice a colleague struggling, whether that's a fellow BA or a stakeholder? What sort of, and this comes back full circle to your sort of the empathetic response. What would a good empathetic response be?
I think just allowing people to see what you've noticed. So I noticed that you weren't contributing as you normally would in that meeting, or I noticed that you had your camera off. Is everything okay? And just kind of inviting a response, and people can say, no, I'm fine, and kind of shut it down, and that's fine too. And that person obviously doesn't want to take up that invitation, but just making time to let people know that you're thinking of them, and you've noticed something, perhaps something different in their behaviour, can actually really help build that relationship as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Build the relationship, and also help the person out, and really that sort of empathy. Empathy and well-being. The more we talk about it, the more I'm concluding. I think it's a penny drop moment for me that the two are hand in hand. You almost can't have well-being without empathy, like a yin and a yang type of thing. Well, Tina, thank you so much for having this chat. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And for everyone that's tuned in, thank you for tuning into what was essentially like episode 0 of this format. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to evolve, but do keep an eye on the LinkedIn feed, and we'll bring you more interesting BA related broadcasts. So thanks again, Tina, and see you again soon.
Thanks, Adrian. Bye.
Bye now.